And I'm now back in our studio live, and I've got two special guests with us. Mitchell Kaplan, the owner of Books and Books and the co-founder of this fair, right? And Harold Augenbraum, the executive director of the National Book Foundation. Mitchell, start us off here as one of the co-founders. Take us back. What was this all about originally?
Well, it was all about a group of people who decided that they wanted to highlight literature in Miami and create the biggest tent it could possibly create in order to honor the diversity that is Miami.
But it was a crazy idea originally.
It was
That's
a
the way I understand it,
It was
right?
a crazy idea.
Because there wasn't
absolutely.
much outside.
Not at all. Miami was at a very, very, very a low point in its history. We had just come off of riots. We had just come off of Mariel. It was pre-Miami Vice, pre-South Beach, pre all of the glitz that you hear about in Miami.
People were not thinking about books.
Well,
Or books in Miami.
The perception was that people didn't think about books or much else that was serious going on down here.
So why did you think it could work? You and Dr. Padron here at the college?
Well, I think Eduardo and myself and a group of other people, we had faith. We had faith in the community here. I saw it firsthand as a bookseller. I was a bookseller for 2 years. I saw what people were buying. I saw the interest that they had in authors that came down. And I had confidence that there was this kind of silent reading public down here who would turn out for this sort of thing. And Eduardo knew that downtown Miami should and was due for a renaissance, which is what this college did.
So fast forward 31 years, Harold, and the National Book Foundation gets involved. How did that come about?
Well, Mitchell and I were talking, and just off chance, he suggested that we bring the winners of the National Book Award down, because the National Book Award is given literally 2 days ago. At night, we awarded the National Book Awards. And so we thought, well, wouldn't it be a great idea that 2 days later that we would come down to Miami and they would appear in Miami? However, logistically, that didn't seem to be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
So Mitchell and I ran into each other at Book Expo, the big book fair in New York, and I explained to him what logistical difficulties that this would present. And he, of course, as the can-do person that he is, just immediately said, well, let's just invite all the finalists.
Bring them all.
Yeah, bring them all.
Right,
We've got, you know.
Because they don't know who's going to win till Wednesday night, and they do have lives, presumably,
yeah,
right?
and just, you know, but we'll give them 5 weeks to plan instead when they're told 5 weeks ago that they're finalists. So let's bring them all down. We'll have a show, and we did.
Why is it important to partner up in this way?
I think one of the things that we try to do is expand the audience beyond New York. And I think one of the things we've been talking about for the past few years is National Book Awards Week, because we give them out, and we do 3 or 4 days of programming in New York, parties, celebrations, the awards themselves. But to expand it in a week, expand it both by time to a full week, and geographically was the really great idea. So we really expand the audience measurably by coming down here.
But I mean, this goes for both of you to this question. These are the changes in the industry you're both in, right? Expanding the audience at a time when most of the talk is about a decreasing audience, right?
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree that it's a decreasing
Yeah.
audience, and I think that there are a variety of factors. I think, first of all, people read words more than they ever had, because maybe they're reading them on a screen, and maybe it's just all day that they're looking at things that they have to do for work, but they're reading a lot. Now, whether they're reading the type of literature that we want them to read, that's another open question, because one of the things that's really terrible in the entire publishing and book industry is the statistics are not great. But I think anecdotally, I think that there's a much broader sense that people do read.
Well, I was at your store yesterday, so I know you don't believe that the book is dying.
I'm the bad person to ask, because
Right.
I'm only surrounded by people who are buying books.
Right.
And the actual statistics are as Harold talks about. And I think the beauty of this kind of partnership is that what I know as a bookseller is that people are constantly looking for guides. There's a vibrant reading community out there who wants to know what the next great book to read is. And there are a variety of different kinds of guides. Booksellers are guides, certain kinds of awards are guides, and the National Book Award is one of the preeminent guides.
Yeah.
So people who win that award, or even if they're a finalist in that award, a shortlisted author, you can see a spike in their book sales. You can see that people want to really experience those sorts of things.
Your booksellers are guides too. I was telling you while I was in your bookstore yesterday that I overheard that classic moment, at the bookstore when somebody walks up with a book and says, "Is this good?"
Right.
I've heard this might be good. and then your bookseller has to help
Exactly.
either vamp or actually with expertise and say something
Yeah.
about it.
Well, it's really interesting because there is a kind of credibility that's built up through this whole thing, and the National Book Foundation has built that credibility up in their awards. I mean, and it gives the reading community a sense of, or it gives the reading community an opportunity to spotlight. In this case, it's 4 books or more, given who all the finalists are. And I love the fact that there's a long list now too, which
Yeah,
also
that's
helps.
a new thing. So that, I mean, but that's part of this changes, right?
It
To
really is
get
part
more,
of
more.
it's sort of both a verticalization and a horizontalization. So giving it more time, instead of 5 weeks for the National Book Awards, now it's 10 weeks. Instead of 20 books, it's 40 books. So it goes in both ways, and it allows people to get these recommendations, 10 weeks in advance. They can read 40 books in 10 weeks or read them throughout the year.
Right.
I think one of the other things that goes on is that book reviews in newspapers have changed immeasurably. I don't think they've disappeared, but the way that they've changed, they don't get a daily review in most newspapers. They don't have a Sunday review.
Yeah.
So book awards that are recommended, not only the National Book Award, but the other book awards all across the country, that are recommended by people really come as recommendations with some expertise.
Yeah.
And then you can argue with them as
Yeah.
much as you want.
Well, it's interesting because a little later here, I'm going to talk to some online reviewers about this
Right.
very issue. Has that changed your world? I mean, the move online, not just for book sales and reading, but I mean, criticism.
Oh, I think it has.
Yeah.
I think, we talk about the daily newspaper coverage, the print newspaper coverage being down, but there's probably more chatter about books than there ever has been, given all of the online coverage that there is. The thing that Harold talks about, which is, it's all about credibility as well. It's the same thing with news. There's as much news out there as there ever was.
Yes,
but
I know.
Exactly. But it's the source of the news that is important. So even with the online reviewers, there are some that have a larger following than others because they tend to be more right on about what they're talking about.
Did you see in this year's group of finalists and winners any themes that jumped out at you? Anything different from past years?
The fiction, and this was pointed out at the National Book Awards, the fiction was really about strife as much as anything else.
Of course, the winning novel was about war.
There's Iraq, and there's the background of war in Lebanon. There's the apocalypse of a disease. So that was not exactly the most upbeat series
No,
of
but
books.
it's addressing what's going on.
addressing
right?
exactly
I mean,
what's going
It's
on.
a sort of relevance to the front page.
Yeah, I mean, Station 11 came out just a couple of months ago, and Station 11 is about an apocalyptic disease that hits America,
Yeah.
and it comes out and becomes a finalist in the National Book Award just around the time that we're discussing Ebola.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things, and Iraq, of course, Phil Clyde's book about Iraq redeployment, which won the National Book Award, is very, very much in the news of people who are coming back, not only during the war, but people who have come back from the war and how they're dealing with that in a war that people would rather not know about and not hear about and not
And
talk about.
If I could say something else, what the National Book Award has done and the foundation has done over the last number of years in highlighting young adult literature and doing programs that will sort of really help to identify the next generation of writers as well as readers. And I think this year, for instance, the category in the young adult category was extremely diverse and extremely interesting, and that will resonate far into the culture because it'll be young people reading these books.
Certainly
and
hear
they
a
will
lot
take
about
it
that
forward.
category. Did it
You do.
explode in terms of for the foundation?
Well, it's one of the things that actually is growing in sales
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Right.
The young adult category is growing in sales. The other thing that we do, and this is very interesting, that the winner of this year's National Book Award in fiction, Phil Cly, was also one of our 5 under 35s this year, the same year. That's the first time that happened.
Yeah.
It's sort of like in baseball becoming Rookie of the Year and the most valuable player in the same year.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
it's
going
the
to talk
only-
to him later, so I'll use that with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only book that that we have this year that actually had 2 stickers on it. It had the silver medalist sticker and the 5 under 35 sticker, and now it has the gold medal sticker. So we say if he gets one more, we're going to call it the NASCAR edition.
Of course, you spooked the guy forever.
Yes,
right?
I
I mean,
know.
what would you possibly do?
I actually asked him that, and I said, what are you going to do for an encore? And he just rolled his eyes.
Do you see, in terms of what people are buying these days, we're talking about young adult fiction, but also this relevance, to what's going on. In other words, do people go to books, that help them understand the world, or are they escaping?
Oh, no, they do. They absolutely do. I mean, they're doing both,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a large amount of escapist fiction, of course. Genre fiction is still very, very strong. That happens particularly online. But it's the issue of the day. Books that come out talking about issues, talking about important developments. Those are things that people tend to go toward.
Mm-hmm.
And again, never underestimate the consumer that reads, because they are really looking for the serious book, the book that has some credibility, and that's what I see in my customers as well.
Just a minute or two left here, so let me just ask you both a question about, first, Mitch, while I've got you, back to the fair.
Yeah.
What happens going, I mean, it's great success for many years, but it grows and grows. Is there a challenge to, I don't know, do you have to keep growing? Do you have to stay relevant somehow? What do you do next?
I don't know that, well, we certainly have to stay relevant. We always want to stay relevant. I don't know that there's a pressure to grow. What we want to do is we want to serve the community, the book community, and then take the importance of what we've been able to establish here, and through partnerships like ours with PBS, with the National Book Foundation, and other kinds of partnerships, maybe help develop that across the country as well. Give other people access to kind of the excitement that we've been able to build here as well.
And do you have other things on your radar for?
Oh yeah, what we're trying to do is develop a lot of regional partnerships as well. I mean, this is one of the regional partnerships. We're looking at all the different regions that we can go to and develop partnerships like this. I think one of the things about the Miami Book Fair is it really is a model for community-based book fairs, and we see it as a model for that. And we see there are places like Los Angeles and Brooklyn, for example, with its book fair
We've already
as
picked
well.
up on it. Yeah. And others to come, maybe.
I agree.
All right, Harold Augenbraum, Mitchell Kaplan, excuse me.
Quite all right.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.